Live, Kevin Bunk, Gabe Zoda coming to you here, coast to coast, return after months. My fault for that, but neither here nor there. We're here now, so we'll focus on that. We're previewing the NBA playoffs, take you through every round, what you need to know. Of course, you can follow Gabe on the playbook. If you don't follow Gabe on the playbook before NBA playoffs start, you're missing out a lot. The short form content, as I always say on the Burrows, best of the business on the short form content. Definitely want to check that out. So, Gabe, how have you been?
I've been doing great, man. Busy couple of months. Happy that you blame it on yourself, the reason why we're not here. But I mean, what the hell did we really miss, right? I mean, the NBA is it gets to the point once you hit the All-Star break where it's kind of same old, same old. Let's get us to the playoffs. So we're here now, and that's the perfect time to at least have this episode and introduce what is should be a pretty good playoffs bracket on both sides of the conferences here.
First, we had the play-in tournament, obviously, go down this week. Still more games to be played tonight to decide those 8 seeds in each conference. But, Gabe, I want to get your thoughts now. We're a few years into the play-in. I don't like it at all. Do you have the same feeling, or do you have a defense for the league here as to why it's a positive?
Well, why it's a positive, we all know why it's a positive, because it brings in more money for this week that usually was filled with nothing, right? Mm-hmm. We had a week in the NBA with years prior where it was just, all right, let's get to the playoffs. Everyone's taking their rest, whatever, before the playoffs start. Now we have a play-in to fill our hearts with a little bit more basketball before we get into the big stuff. And, I think that if you're looking at it business-wise and monetarily, that's the biggest reason why you have the play-in. If we actually talk about competition, well, I mean, just look at this year. You have the 8th and the 10th seeds both playing tonight on both sides of the board. And if we looked at a couple of these games, they weren't really close, right? I mean, that's how I've always been. It's like, are these games actually going to matter? Is it just going to be 7 and 8 seeds just getting in? And I guess we've seen a little bit more parity at these spots, right? So it hasn't just been the 7th and 8th seeds getting the 7th and 8th seeds every single year. Miami always seems to come in from the 9th or 10th seed and make a playoff spot. On the other side, you had the Warriors for the past couple seasons and the Lakers, right, where they've been in those spots where maybe they weren't supposed to be in the playoffs, but you get a play-in spot and now you have another chance. I understand why you might not like it. I'm not saying I love it, but we are seeing a little bit more parity in that bottom than I think we thought coming in.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I also think astounding. I really didn't notice it. I knew it was going on. The Grizzlies are the 8th seed in the West, of course. They have to play Dallas to see who gets that last spot. But they finished with the same record as Milwaukee. Milwaukee was the 5 seed in the East. So obviously the West, who gave us an awful Mavericks-Kings game. Terrible, terrible game. We got a playoff Jimmy game, though, in the Golden State-Memphis game. But the West is just so much better than the East. So maybe the Eastern Conference is what's ruining it for me, because I'm just watching teams that I don't think deserve to be here anyways. I mean, Miami finishing 8 games under 500 and now having a crack at being the 8th seed in the conference is just abysmal for me. I really hate it.
Yeah, no, that's the biggest problem, right? When you look at the Eastern Conference. In the Western Conference, I remember, obviously, we've talked about it many times. I'm watching the Lakers a lot, and they were sitting at the 3 seed, and if they lost like the last 2 games, they would have fell all the way down to the play-in. Like, that's how much of a difference there was. And I remember they showed like those graphics where it's like, oh, the opportunities where all the teams could land. And the Western Conference, every team could be anywhere from the 4th seed to the 11th seed in a matter of a second, right? Depending on who won a certain game. That's what makes it super interesting. On the other side, you mentioned it with the Eastern Conference. Pretty much baloney. But let me ask you about this, right? Because we always talk about the league getting more talented as the years go on, a natural progression of athletes and what has now culminated into where we are now. I think we are heading towards, and I want to get your thought, we're heading towards a league with way more parity based off of how good each player is. So would that be a justification for having the play-in, keeping it around, because we've seen with the Western Conference with the way that teams are?
I do agree with you that there's more parity. I think in both conferences, we're going to get to the West, and specifically in the West, I mean, there are 5-6 teams here in the West for the first time in a while that I feel like could make a run. I mean, this is This is a really talented Western Conference. And then in the East, too, I mean, would anybody be totally floored if any of the top 5 seeds were in the conference final? You know, I mean, if Giannis and Dame put it together and got to the conference final, I'm not shocked. If the Pacers went back, I'm really not shocked. Knicks, too, I know they had the 0-8 against Cleveland and Boston, but I think you're right. So it does have a little bit of a justification. And then you watch these play-in games, right? It's not like the players, to your point, stink in it. I mean, we're watching Trae Young, we're watching Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, Ja Morant, Triple J. We're watching in Dallas, the great team they've put together there. My God. But so we're getting good players in them. And I do think if I want to look for a benefit, it can help a team who loses their best player from November to February, but they're a contender. It still gives them a shot to actually get in if they finish with the 9 seed. So it does make it entertaining in those scenarios. I think this year, though, the teams that were in this year is why I'm turned off to it right now, because I don't like the 4 teams that got in the East at all. I don't think any of them are very good. Obviously, Orlando and Atlanta should have gotten in because they were 7-8 seeds, so they are playoff teams. But you know, besides Golden State, I don't like any of the teams in the West. The Kings and Mavericks, I think, stink. And they've had lost seasons. We know that. But Grizzlies, Warriors, both teams should be in. So, yeah, this year, maybe it's just recency bias to make my whole rant shorter. Maybe it's just recency bias that I think the 7-8 seeds just deserve to get in, and that's it. But we're going to find out tonight if the 10 seeds can pull something off.
Yeah, and why not, right? I guess that's the whole thing. You had a couple seasons ago where there was that big game between Minnesota and the Nuggets. I don't know if you remember the Jimmy Butler, where he had a crazy game at the end, and at the end of the regular season that eliminated the Nuggets from playoff contention that year. And it was this big thing, and that was a big driving factor for adding a play-in, once again, in the Western Conference being the way that it is. And I guess that you look at this year, and if it is 7-8 once again getting in, then you have to have those conversations. I mean, about its relevance and all that stuff. I appreciate that we get a little bit more basketball. I think that's what makes me a little bit happy as a basketball junkie kind of head guy. It just gives me something else to watch because, you know, I know you guys go crazy on the Burrows, but if I'm not trying to watch a blowout, the Yankees getting blown out, I'm not trying to watch Juan Soto go 0-4 again, right? And like, then let me have fun. Let me watch some basketball at least.
Yeah, I do feel like as a basketball fan, and I mean, we shared our love for pretty similar sports, you and I, but I think as a basketball fan, like for me, it's you watch until the All-Star break, and then I really lock into college basketball for the 8 weeks, and then I pivot right back here to the NBA playoffs, which I love, and it makes it much more bearable to watch the late West Coast game and just watch the run of games that go on. I like the way they schedule them too. Let's get started here in the bracket though, in the picks. A lot to talk about, but first we'll just go 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Cavaliers, awesome season. I think the Cavs are somehow underrated going into this playoff, but I can't see them losing to either of these teams. There's not a real threat here. If Miami had Jimmy, maybe there'd be more of a threat, but they don't, and I just don't see this being an entertaining first series at all.
No, I mean, it's going to be 4 games, 4, maybe 5 max, right? I mean, both of these teams, I don't think a matchup. I think the Heat are actually going to win tonight, so I'll just plug in the Heat for that win. I don't think Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo is just enough to defeat what is a great, fantastic Cavaliers team. You mentioned how underrated they are. It's just because of their failures from years past. It kind of feels like the Nuggets from a couple years ago before they won any championships. It was this situation where, okay, the Nuggets are great in the regular season again, but can they actually become a championship winning team? And they haven't shown that over the last couple years, so people throw them away. We live that every day at home because we're Knicks fans. We want to see the Knicks do well, but if they play the Cavaliers, I know a lot of Knicks fans are going to be like, oh, I'm confident against the Cavs. We could do that against the Cavs. Look what we did in the BC times a couple years ago, right? And they compare that. But the Cavaliers are a fantastically ran team. We've sang the praises of Kenny Atkinson early on when we were doing this show. He's done a fantastic job again this year. And I really do think that the Cavaliers, obviously, once again, in this first round series at least, are going to take that handedly.
How about the Celtics? I agree with you on every point, too. How about Celtics Magic here? I mean, I feel like just the two least compelling series are the top two seeds in the Eastern Conference to go into this weekend. Celtics, you could argue, were the best team in the league still, won the finals last year, obviously. They go to Orlando. I think this is a clean sweep for Boston.
Yeah, I really like Paulo Banchero, but I don't like him that much to give him that many games against the Celtics.
No way. Then you get to the real meat of it. I think there's great 3-6, 4-5 matchups, as there usually are. But we could start with the Knicks Pistons, which we could actually go in depth with compared to, I mean, the prior two just don't need to go in depth with at this point. But the Knicks and Pistons, I think, is an interesting series. Obviously, Pistons were one of the better stories in the league this year coming up. And the Knicks, maybe, as we see from the complete frustration of their fan base, which is way overblown, they didn't have the year of dominance that was expected after the two big trades. And I can agree with that, but no reason to completely overreact. Where do you lean in this one?
I'm going with the Knicks. I got the Knicks in 6. I've said this from day one, and I just don't understand why Knicks fans especially are so convinced that this series is going to be like a terrible series for the Knicks. Like, let's even look at the matchups. Everyone's like, oh, the Pistons, they're so physical, and that's really going to disrupt the Knicks. Bro, the Knicks have guys like Mitchell Robinson and Cat in the paint. Fine, you can call Cat soft all you want, but just that duo itself, it's going to be tough to score in the interior, especially when Mitch is on the floor. And then you have Jalen Brunson fully healthy now. He's going to be ready to go, and a lot of people point to the 1-3 in the regular season against the Pistons, but even in those games, the Knicks weren't fully completed. The Knicks just weren't themselves 100% of the time in those games. In the playoffs, it's a different animal. You're going to have MSG rocking tomorrow, you're going to have MSG rocking, and it just doesn't make any sense to me why people think that this is going to be like a grueler series for the Knicks. I just don't see it. Cade, amazing player. They do have really good players as well on that team, but not against this Knicks team, not this year.
And correct me if I'm wrong here. When you look at the Knicks and the Pistons, do the Knicks not have 4 of the 5 best players in this series? I think Brunson's the best. Cunningham's a close second. But then it's Towns, OG, Bridges, however you want to slice it up, I think are the 3 next best players, if we're calling Jaden Ivey the second best on Detroit. And you could argue, I'm not going to go here, but I could accept at least a debate that Deuce McBride in Ivy's role could be a 17-point-per-game scorer that gets as much hype. I could accept the debate. I'm not going to go there, but the Knicks have 4 of the 5 best players in this series.
Yeah, but that's the only problem. After those 4 of the 5, a lot of Knicks fans will tell you, well, look at the depth. And then Pistons fans will talk about guys like Malik Beasley, talk about the guys that they have inside the paint with Duren and also Isaiah Stewart. So I do think that there is an argument to make this one a 5 to 6 game series, but to me, it's going to be Knicks because that talent, a lot of people are saying really down on the Knicks and saying, oh, they don't have the grit. They don't have the emotion. They don't have that next level. Guys, I mean, we're going up against a Pistons team to which is so much less talented. I'm pretty sure they'll be up for the playoffs. Guys like Josh Hart and OG Anunoby are going to bring that grit and energy that you remember from last year's team. It's not they're not totally lost. They're not lifeless. This team has spirit. They have the life. Just give them a chance to show it. And I think this series doesn't, it's going to be 4-2, 4-1 or 4-2 in favor of the Knicks.
And I hate to say this because I love basketball and competition, and I think these athletes are very competitive compared to, contrary to what everybody likes to say about them. But is it possible that once you become an annual playoff team by the 6th week of the season, you knew who the top 3 seeds in the Eastern Conference were going to be, and we knew how they were going to be ordered. It was just locked in so early in the year. It's possible that they just don't flip the switch every single night to be the grittiest, most competitive, tough team because they know this is what they're playing for. And I do think the Knicks lost some of that from last year, but it's just so played out with this group that they can't be tough and they can't be gritty and that the Pistons are going to beat the hell out of them. I just don't see it. But if this is a 6-3 upset, we've seen crazier. We have seen wilder upsets in the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen, though. Like I don't see it ever happening. There's a debate that OG Anunoby is the second best player in this series. Like that's how good he's been. And Like there's no doubt in my mind that him on that defensive end is going to, he could average 2 steals this series. And it won't be a shock to me at all if he averages that by the end of the series, 22 points per game and averaging 2 steals and a block. That won't be a surprise to me. Oh, combined with Jalen Brunson getting you 26, 27, Karl Anthony Towns getting 24, 25. Like those 3 themselves could beat the Pistons. And like maybe I'm underrating the Pistons. That's okay, but I'm convinced that this series, there's no chance the Knicks lose it.
The Pistons feel like the Knicks their first year with Julius Randle in the playoffs. That's what they remind me of. Really tough, overachieving team with a good veteran coach. The team hasn't won in forever, and now they are turning the corner, but they're still a year away from building a team that can get to round 2. I think they're going to come up short. Knicks won 1 game in that series against the Hawks, and the Hawks were just better, and I think this is a much more lopsided talent matchup than we even saw in that. So, I got Knicks in 6 here. I think that they'll drop a game that they should probably win, and the Pistons will be just physically so tough and so demanding that they'll be able to steal one to make it a 6-game series. But that leaves us with Pacers-Bucks, which is another interesting one, interesting little Midwest rivalry here too between the Pacers and Bucks. And you got Giannis, who is as good as anybody in the league this season. The Pacers, who have a 10-man deep rotation, as able as anyone in the league for the most part, besides maybe OKC. But I think this is a tough one to pick, Gabe.
Yeah, no, this is one of the more tough ones to pick in this first round on either conference, just because as a basketball fan, we usually just lean with, okay, who has the better player? Who is the best player? And obviously that's Giannis, and he's the best player in this series by a mile, in my opinion. There's nobody even close, but I don't think the Bucks have Dame in this first round series. He could be back for round 2. I think that's what they're saying. So no Dame in this first round. You have Giannis, who is the best player. To me, this Bucks team, though, once you get to the nitty-gritty, I don't think the direction of the Bucks is a good one, the way that this franchise is going. So I don't want to say that the Bucks are really coming into the playoffs with something to prove or something that next step, that chip on the shoulder. I think Giannis is coming in and he wants to dominate. But the rest of the team, I just feel, and I've said this on the 2-for-1 podcast that I did with our buddy Nate, I feel like the Bucks are in this dead fish situation to where they don't really have much of a direction moving forward. You contrast that with the Pacers. The Pacers are trying to prove everything. Very young team. I think Tyrese Halliburton is the best teammate that Obi Toppin could have ever asked for, the way that he's been playing as of late. So I really do think the Pacers have the better momentum. I think they are the better team. And if they might not have the better player, I'm still going to go with the Pacers in this series, probably in 7 games at the end of it, but it's going to be in the way of the Pacers.
Yeah, I like Indiana in 7 as well. You just look, this is another topic we spoke about early in the year. Look at this Bucks team, right? And this was before they even traded Middleton. We were having this conversation before they got Kuzma, but without Dame, Kuzma's their second option. It's just not enough to win a playoff series against a team that was just in the conference finals last year that can score from a bunch of different places. And you're right, Halliburton, I think it's a lot of hate. A lot of it, I gave him a lot last year. I think he's got a little overrated last season, but he's just continuing to play great basketball, and he makes the guys around him a lot better. He's a great leader for that rotation. He does a great job running the floor. I like Halliburton a lot now. I hate playing against him. It's annoying to play against. Doesn't hit big shots, whatever. Neither here nor there. But I think the Pacers in 7 here too, which stinks because Giannis, there's that Giannis conversation on the horizon too. That's definitely going to start happening, especially if they lose this series.
It's the Giannis conversation that we've been having the past 2 years already. Yep. So we were kind of in the forefront of that conversation, and I guess I'm rooting for them to lose just so that conversation. Like, I don't want Giannis on the Bucks. Like, I don't want that. As a basketball fan, there's no reason why he should be there because they're mistreating him in Milwaukee. They're not surrounding him with a very good team or a good coach for that matter. So why in the world would I want Giannis on the Bucks? It just doesn't seem like a healthy relationship. And I don't know, package Thanasis and Giannis and get them both the hell out of there because they deserve much better than what they're getting in Milwaukee right now.
And, it's just not to do it like an off-season convo, but you can't tell me there's not going to be teams just chomping at the bit for Giannis, especially Miami, after what Pat Riley just had to go through with Jimmy Butler, and his ego is probably a little damaged right now. I think there's going to be major players for Giannis, and it's funny how the conversation turned since the Dame trade, as first it was Dame to Milwaukee, finally get him out of Portland, where he was so loyal, but he just, once again, got mistreated. And, Giannis has the ring. He has given Milwaukee a championship. He's won an MVP there. Like he's given them enough, I think. And while I love to see a guy have a 20-year Tim Duncan, great, fairy tale story, win 5 rings in the same place, that's not going to happen for Giannis. And you're right. They don't even give him a good coach. It's not like they're struggling to only surround with players and it's too easy free agent signings. They can't even give him a good coach. That's a broken organization right now.
Let me tell you this. Yeah, obviously Dame's there. If I'm Dame, obviously you want to keep Giannis for as long as possible as your teammate. But if I'm Dame, you already have experience with a situation like this. If I'm Dame, I'm going, and Giannis asked me about this and asked me, hey, I know you left Portland, and, have those conversations. I think that's a very valuable part of maybe Dame being Giannis's teammate, of being, hey, I've been in a situation like this to where my organization didn't give me every tool that I wanted late in my career there. This is how you should move forward. Maybe learn from me, leave earlier than I did from my situation, and go somewhere else to where you actually have a chance to compete for a real championship over the next couple seasons. I think Dame's role became be the best teammate as possible and try to help this team. But now I think it'll be very important for him to be kind of like a confidant and let him know, hey, this is how you got to move forward here.
And it would be interesting, will the two of them together go to the front office and say, we don't want to break this up? Because you got to, of course, Dame's emotions are going to be, I don't want Giannis to leave, because then he's stuck in another Portland situation and he doesn't have the leverage, the age, the contract to now get moved out of it. So it'll be interesting if they take it to the front office and say, this is what we want to see happen. And we want to keep this thing together, but XYZ has to go right for us this offseason. And we have to feel good about this squad because we're tired of wasting our years. And I know that people get upset that players in the NBA do that and have roles in stuff. Obviously, it's the big LeBron slap. But you know what? Like, you get one career in pro sports, and it doesn't last long. And when you don't win a ring in the NBA, you get ridiculed forever for it. You will never live it down in the NBA over any other league. Like, we celebrate Dan Marino in football. We don't celebrate Charles Barkley in the same way because he didn't get the ring. So you need to win one, and these guys deserve to be involved in the role. I mean, they're the most important people in the organization, really. That's what it comes down to. Second round here, we got Cavs host the Pacers. Knicks at Celtics. We'll start in Cleveland. I got Cavs in 6 over Indiana.
Yeah, these next 2 rounds, like we could, I think we can yap about all we want and kind of make an argument for something happening. I feel like we both know the answer to both of these series. We're going to talk about them, but I think we both know the answer here. I got to go the Cavs here. The Cavs just feel like an upgraded version of the Pacers.
Yep.
In terms of the depth that they have, the way that they play, and kind of styles there. Obviously, the Cavs a little bit more size than the Pacers do, but it does seem just that way. The Cavs are just a better version of the Pacers. So if I'm looking at it from that standpoint, if we want to give a games to it, Cavs in 6, right? And then we kind of move from there.
And that top 7 for Cleveland, really the top 8, Mitchell, Garland, Mobley, Hunter, Allen, Jerome, Strus. It's just, they have such a deep team, and they're so well coached. And defensively, if you watch them play, they do feel like maybe Golden State's right there too. We'll talk about Golden State later, but I feel like these are the elite defensive teams that are really popping out to me right now. Evan Mobley, this is where Knicks fans, I think, get it wrong, is you look back to 2 years ago and think about what Mitchell Robinson and what big centers were doing to Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley's not the same player. He's great now. He is one of the best two-way centers in basketball, best two-way bigs. I guess he's a power forward, but he is, and then you throw Jared Allen in like that. Those two protecting the paint and the way that they could switch, their switchability is so impressive. I just, this team, I love this team. I really like, it's one of the few non-Knicks teams in basketball that I really have come to love. And I spoil it now. I have them in the finals. So I don't even think that there's a question in the second round with either series, because I do have Boston beating the Knicks in 5, but Cleveland's really great.
Yeah, no, Cleveland, and Cleveland deserved one of these teams eventually, right? It felt like they were still living in this shadow of, okay, you have a good team now, but you haven't won a championship since LeBron. You haven't been to the finals since LeBron. And I think there still is a little bit of that lingers in those in that arena, right? Is that the last time we really got there was LeBron, and now you have a team in this Cleveland team that you're like, this could very well be the year that we get to the finals where we actually win a championship. And remember the conversations last year, we were all saying, should Donovan Mitchell leave this team in the offseason? Should he stay? Is there a future here with the Cavs? And yes, obviously, verifiably that there is. You talk about how great Evan Mobley is. He's my defensive player of the year this year. That's how good he's been. And it's just going to be a wrecking crew here with these top two teams until they meet in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think it's going to be great to see. And you got to be happy for the Cleveland fan base to actually experience a homegrown team that's come up the ranks and really has been fantastic this season.
And selfishly, I'd love to see the Knicks advance past this round. But if basketball fans don't get Cleveland and Boston in the conference final, I do feel like there was a robbery of entertainment and just great competitiveness, because the way that these two teams play when they get together, especially Donovan Mitchell. Mitchell, in their last few meetings with Boston, is the best player on the floor, and Tatum is still great, and Brown is still great. So I really want to see this matchup. I want to see if Mitchell can do it over 7 games with these guys, because even last year in the postseason when Boston bounced them, I think it was in 5 games, maybe 6, Mitchell handled them. He is great against Boston. He owns Boston, and they cannot guard him. So I want to see this series, but it's, it goes back to that Bucks conversation. Like, how do you, in those pivotal moments that the Knicks and Cavs were both in this offseason, how do you respond? And for the Cavs, it was change the head coach, and he's gotten the most out of Garland and Mobley, and reuniting with Jared Allen's been a great story. Gotten the most out of their bench, used the rotation. I mean, Donovan Mitchell's playing 31 minutes a game. It's really impressive that they can play on that low and win 64 games this year. And for the Knicks, it was, let's go get some more players. We like our coach. Let's go get Mikal Bridges. Let's go get Karl Anthony Towns. And we'll see over the next few weeks, whose strategy paid off better. But obviously, it feels like it's trending towards Cleveland after this regular season.
And it's rough because I feel like with Cleveland, they had the right pieces. So the coach was the next logical step. I still am not sure that the Knicks had the right pieces, which is why I'm fine with them making the moves that they made. To me, this year was never the year for the Knicks. It never was. I know you make those big trades. You invest such heavy capital into what could be a run this year, especially after last year's team. You felt like you were right there. You just needed a little bit more and then maybe explode. I don't think that team last year was ever going to be better than the Celtics and the Cavs were this year. So you needed to make some player movement, and they made that movement. And this year was never going to be the year. You look at teams that add such crazy talent in 1 year or at the deadline, they almost never win a championship in that first year. It takes a year, 2, 3 years. I mean, look at these top teams, right? Look over at OKC, look over at Boston, look over at Cavs. Those cores have been together for 3-4 years already before they're actually top talent and actually NBA championship competitors. So I don't want to hear this from Knicks fans that, oh, well, this year was supposed to be the year. No, it wasn't, in my opinion. It was not at all. And fine, we could talk about Tibbs, and I do want to get your opinion now. Like, if the Knicks do lose in the second round, what are those conversations? We all know the Knicks fans are going to ask for the whole thing to be changed. I saw many people saying there needs to be big-time change with the Knicks. Do you think that is the route, or is the route sticking with this team for another 2-3 years and actually letting this core grow for once?
I'm sticking with the players. I'm extending Bridges. I hope maybe he'll sign for less than the max. I don't think he will, but I'm sticking with Bridges. I'm sticking with Towns. Obviously, you have to stick with Towns, but I'm keeping these guys around. And now it's about how can you add 2 pieces to the bench. And I would seriously consider the coach change, but you have to be very careful with it, because we have to acknowledge what was here before Thibs. Like, he did a great job with the Knicks, getting them back to a point of relevance and sustained success. Even the Carmelo years, it wasn't sustained. It was a few years because you added so much talent, but it didn't feel like it had longevity. Now this does feel that way. So the Cavs did it with Bickerstaff to Atkinson. You could botch this though. It's not that simple where you just make that swap and everything's better the next day. Is Mike Malone a guy that you want to bring in to do this? I don't know. Is Johnny Bryant someone as a first-time head coach, somebody you want to bring in to do this? It's a really tough conversation for the Knicks, and you could sink the ship by firing Thibodeau. You really could, or you could be Cleveland.
Yeah, and that's the line, right? I think what makes this even more difficult is that JB Bickerstaff wasn't as loved in that locker room as Tom Thibodeau is in that Knicks locker room. I mean, you watch the Roommates show, and he's calling up Jalen Brunson left and right, and they're having fun on the podcast together. The way that everybody talks about Tibbs, it's like this guy A, loves basketball, and B, he's different for sure, but we all love Tibbs, and he helped me out a lot. We had Quentin Grimes a couple days ago or a week ago talking about his conversations with Tibbs and what his thoughts were on Tibbs, and he was nothing but glowing towards Tibbs. So when you look in that locker room, they all love this guy. They all want to fight and die for this guy. So if they do make that change, you can't outright fire Tibbs. He has to stay around as some sort of basketball advisor or something. Do something similar to what the Boston Celtics did, right? Moving from Brad Stevens to Ime Udoka at the time, but then you move to Missoula, another basketball genius, but Stevens stays there because a lot of the guys liked Stevens, and he was a really good basketball guy. So I think that's the route, if they do make a move, that you ultimately make.
And I wonder how that would all fall into place, because how much say then would Thibodeau have on the roster once he gets elevated?
You don't want it to be one of those things where you have I'm forgetting his name, Phil Jackson situation, right? You don't want that where he was still introducing a triangle offense while he was sitting up in the press box, right? You don't want that.
Well, yeah, you need, if you were to go a route like Johnny Bryant, who, if you don't know, is the Cleveland assistant right now. He was with the Knicks as an associate head coach a few years ago, and he knows this core. He's familiar with Brunson, and I think that if you go that route, maybe Thibodeau, like, you would need to know that he's not going to just start imprinting his coaching on Bryant and oppressing him to the point where he has to listen to him, and it becomes a disaster. The problem I have with Tibbs, and I like him a lot, I'm a big fan of his coaching style. I love what he's done with the team and for the city and how he's embraced the challenge, but just the uninspired offense, I'm so tired of it. Like, we're going to talk about in a little bit, the Lakers and even the Warriors. I know Steve Kerr gets a lot of slack, but I'm watching these two teams. And do the Knicks have Luka and LeBron? No, but there's a real creative mind at play offensively, where the Knicks, there's clearly an ignorance towards that innovation on offense. It's the same pick and roll, high pick and roll with Towns and Brunson. Last year it was Hartenstein, and I'm just really tired of watching it. And I think it's had a real negative effect on Bridges and Anunoby when everybody's healthy.
Yeah, I just don't know who else, like, who do they have on the staff that helps Tibbs? To me, there needs to be a couple of minds that are working this offense, that are being innovative on the offense, because we know Tibbs is two things: a defensive-minded guy and someone who's a pretty good and damn good motivator, right? Someone who is that father figure that can motivate teams to be that scrappy team that we saw last year and to elevate themselves to get to a certain point, right? But who on that bench is really that offensive mind? I do think that it may be less of a Tom Thibodeau thing and more of, who the hell are my assistant head coaches that are actually designing this offense? Or the front office, the general managers being like, okay, we know what we have with Tibbs, but we need to fill him out with guys that can assist him. Look at the Lakers, right? You have JJ Redick, who has the specialties on the offensive end. He's a great play designer. He knows the ins and outs of basketball. He's just a basketball nerd. But who do they fill him out with? Guys that have been head coaches before, because you need that experience, and Scott Brooks and the other McMillan, who was there as well. Mm-hmm. But you also have the differences of the types of minds in that sphere, where some guys will be more defensive heavy, some guys will be more offensive. That is what a coaching staff is for. You see in football, you have a defense coordinator, offense coordinator. Like, I feel like they don't have that in New York. You just have a bunch of guys that just are what Tibbs are and just are kind of prototypes of that. You know, I just don't see that difference And it's a reason why things get stale, because there's no other voice being like, hey, I think we could try this or that, right, on the offensive end.
Yep, absolutely. Love it. Love the point. Conference final, Cavs, Celtics. Who do you have advancing in the East?
It's this one. I mean, we could go back and forth all day.
Mm-hmm.
I think you got to give it to the Celtics here. I feel like they've just been the team. And just based off history, I think there's a great conversation to say that this is the Cavaliers' year and that they're going to be that team. But I just think you match them up once again, and I think it's going to be Cleveland the Celtics that come out on top, just because you have the best couple of players in that series. You have a coach in Joe Mazzulla who is an absolute maniac, by the way. I mean, the way that he talks about it, basketball, the way that his mindset is, and that trickles down to the players. And I think that's very important. I think this team also has great chemistry. I think you see guys like Derek White and Jason Tatum that have some of the best chemistry that I've seen a couple basketball players have. And I think their bigs are a problem in that series. I don't think you can just rely on guys like Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis to be defended by Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, but they both have their different advantages, both on the offensive and defensive ends. So it could go either way. I'm going to give it to Celtics in 7 and see them in the finals.
Yeah, since I'm going to go, as I said before, I'm going to go with the Cavs in 7. I can't see this series shorter than 7. First of all, like that's something I feel very confident about. How does it go after? I'm not sure. But again, to my Donovan Mitchell point, and I'm riding on him a lot in this prediction, is since joining Cleveland, Mitchell's had 2 games under 30 points against the Celtics, and he scored 25 and 29. He's had, let me double check here, I think 3 games over 40. 4 games over 40, everything else around 35 points. So he owns them when he plays them, but they're not winning against them as we saw in last year's postseason. It's not a guarantee to get these wins for Cleveland. I think this will be the year with those 2 bigs, Allen and Mobley, that you have, as you said, a guy who's damn near the most qualified for Defensive Player of the Year, if not far and away the most qualified, and Jared Allen, who does not shine in the way he should because of Mobley and because of Mitchell and Garland. Just 2 great bigs. Going to be tough to score inside. Celtics chuck the 3 ball like crazy, though. Did you see the stat? Most threes attempted in a season by a team.
Yep.
And they're the last 3 years of the top 3.
Yeah, it's not even close. And that's what brings me to saying that I think that style of offense plays perfectly against the Celtics, because against the Cavaliers, because against the Cavs, you're not going inside against those 2 guys. And the Celtics are saying, okay, we don't have to. We're not going to actually. We're going to chuck threes, but it's not chucking. It's just, this is the style of our offense. Mm-hmm. Styles make fights. And I think if it was against most any other team in that Eastern Conference, the Cavaliers are going to steamroll them just because you have to go inside, right? But you can't go inside against this team. I think the Celtics are very comfortable with playing on the outside and doing that drive and kick offense, and that's what gets them those wins. That's the reason why I edge them, is just because that defense is great on Cleveland side, right? You talked about it, and I'm going to repeat it, but they don't play in a way that's good for the Cavaliers defense, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Boston shoots 36%, almost 37% on threes, while taking by far the most attempts in the league. It is, you're right, it's not the typical, they just chuck threes and hope they drop. They have built a team that can shoot the highest volume of 3-pointers in the league and have massive success. That's a tough series, man. We got to get it. We got to get that series.
It needs to happen. Screw the Knicks. Get them out of here.
Got to get that series. Cavs, Celtics. And then I'll just throw it, because if the Knicks or Pacers did advance and play either the Cavs or Celtics, do either of them have a shot?
No,
right?
No. Like the Knicks would play the Cleveland, right, in the Eastern Conference Finals. And although the Knicks fan base would be very confident in that happening, it just won't because of what we've talked about already. And then on the flip side, Pacers against the Celtics, that would be interesting as well, because obviously the Celtics win it. I think they win that max that series ever goes is 6, but mostly in 5 or 4. But Pacers, you have a guy in Miles Turner, which is pretty much like a Porzingis-like player. You have just, way less talented. Yeah, I mean, you have some shooters on that Pacers team. They're a deep team, but I just can't see it at all.
Yeah,
I
agree. Totally agree. Let's go to the Western Conference here. There's not a series in the Western Conference that doesn't fascinate me. So many different reasons and storylines. Actually, I lied. There's one series that doesn't fascinate me. It's the first one, Thunder versus Mavericks / Grizzlies. I think the Grizzlies win tonight, but I don't think they win a game against the Thunder in round one. Same goes for Dallas if they win tonight.
Yep, I fully agree. I'm not even going to waste my breath.
Nope, we'll talk more Thunder for round two. And then we go to the 2-7. This is as good of a 2-7, I think, as you can find, as competitive of a 2-7. I'm on the Warriors. It scares me how many people are on the Warriors for this series. I think they win it in 6. Rockets inexperienced. I think they're a year away from being a serious contender. But Golden State, this isn't the first time that they'll upset a team in the first round as a lower seed. We saw them do it to the Kings in the 1-8 a few years ago. I think the Golden State's got it with Jimmy here and playoff Jimmy, as we saw in the play-in game. It's real. It's not something that goes away. When he is healthy and on in the postseason, he's incredible. I think that the Warriors win this first round. Very tough 6-game series, though.
Yeah, it's tough with this Rockets team, right? You want to go and edge with the Rockets, but as you said, a little bit too young, a little bit inexperienced in this spot. And you could tell me all you want about Dylan Brooks and Amen Thompson being very good on the defensive end. I mean, they have some of the best. You talk about the Rockets, they've been one of the best defensive teams this entire year. And it's a big reason why the Rockets have been this great. A lot of people just don't know about the Rockets at all. And they're kind of confused about them. They think Alperen Şengün is just like a genius, but like this team is well coached. Obviously with Ime Udoka, we know he's one of the best coaches in the NBA. This team plays a hell of a great defense, and you have I think 3 or 4 of the top 100 defenders on this team, and it's just a great team. But it's tough, right? Can you defend this Warriors team with now Jimmy Butler? The Warriors, ever since Jimmy Butler's come around, has been the best defense in the entire league, and that plays against this inexperience. And Steve Kerr, a lot of people give him flack. I give him a lot of flack because I don't think he's that great of a coach overall. I think he's overrated, but he's still a great offensive mind. And the system that he's instilled in this Warriors team offensively, it's one of the toughest to defend because of how dynamic guys like Draymond Green, who's now turned into a really good defender and has been pretty good on defense. I mean, he's been a great defender, but the start of this year wasn't doing much. He was just old, seemed washed, but now he seems rejuvenated. And this Warriors team is riding high right now. They are the reason why you have a play-in, right? They are that team that doesn't seem like they have much coming into the season, but they catch something late at the trade deadline and now are a competitor. So I really do like this Warriors team. I'm going to give them a series here, but I don't know, 6, 7 games, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm on 6 games. As I said, 7 wouldn't shock me. And if the Rockets won, wouldn't shock me, but I'm going to go with Golden State here. Draymond would actually be my pick for Depoy. And I just think this is the best we've seen him play defensively since their last title run. His ability to guard 1 through 5 now at his age, what is he? He's 35 now.
Yeah.
For him to guard 1 through 5 the way he does is so impressive. Average a steal and a half, a block, and sometimes that doesn't translate to great defense, but in the case of Draymond, it does. He's the most valuable defender, I think, in the postseason right now. Maybe we'll see if healthy Kawhi can step up and be that guy, but just his ability to step out, play the guard, to make a center, an elite center, very uncomfortable. Draymond is the guy. I think the X factors in this series are Wiggins and Kuminga. Can they play with the Rockets' wing defenders? Are they going to be able to score with the Rockets' wing defenders? And we'll see. And same goes for the Rockets guys against the two of them. But I'm excited for this series. This is going to be one of the first-round series that I'm going to be locked in on because, one, I love Steph. I want to see Steph in the years we still have him. Steph and LeBron in round 2 I'm hoping for as well. We'll go to that series in a second. But this is going to be a fun one. The Rockets are fun, too.
Most of it. And before we get to the next series, Wiggins is in Miami.
Wiggins is in Miami. Oh, my God. I'm an idiot.
They made the trade. That was the trade.
I
Not
know.
an idiot, but yes.
I'm thinking Kaminga, and who else is starting for them? Healed right now. He's averaging 11 or 12, or is it Podziemski?
Podziemski, man.
Yeah.
Fried the Lakers.
Basically, can the Wings score while I'm an absolute moron?
There you go.
Wings in Miami playing tonight. Who's going to be the next guy for Golden State? Schroeder that I bring up?
Maybe. That guy's been everywhere.
Well, yeah, he has been. All right, next series, we go to the Lakers. I think the Lakers are going to win this in 5.
In 5.
Yeah, I know that you're going to have a lot of good insight on the Lakers. I'm very high on them.
The Lakers are coming into this series. I'm going to give the Timberwolves a little bit of props. I do think the Timberwolves coming into this series have been playing some of their best basketball. I think that connection with Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards has really started to finally click over there. And then, you have decent shooters on that team. You have guys like Naz Reid, who always seems to fry the Lakers. Dante DiVincenzo, who started off hot, then ended up not doing anything at all, but now seems to have settled in. He's a 40% three-point shooter this year, averaging about 12 points per game as well. So he's doing his thing on that team. I do like the coach I do like Chris Finch a lot in Minnesota, but let me say this: there's nobody right now that I'm higher on than this Lakers team. To me, this Lakers team, the only team that could really stop them or either Denver and OKC. There's no other team I'm worried about with the Lakers. I have this one going 5, maybe 6. There's this team, the way it's playing, and I want to get your thoughts on this, right? Because I obviously watch this team, but how do you think that the size impacts the Lakers in this playoffs? Do you think it's that big of like a downfall?
I think it's way overblown, the Lakers' lack of size. I think that they've done this is another thing that's impressed me with Redick and his coaching staff, is when they made that trade and they didn't get the Hornets trade to go through, we all thought there's no way that they have enough size to win this year. They needed a center. But the way that they've adjusted, and when you have on the floor, I mean, Vanderbilt's look good when he's out there, and obviously when you have the LeBron, Finney Smith, one of our guys, we predicted that trade right before it happened, and he's been awesome when he's on the floor. Defensively, they've surprised me a lot, and I thought they were going to be a complete liability with the trio of Reeves, LeBron, and Doncic on the floor, and that has not been the case defensively. So until I get proven otherwise, I think that they'll be all right. And furthermore, I think the only center in the conference that's going to worry me is Jokic.
Right.
So I'm not losing sleep over size when the guys that I'm probably going to run into, Rudy and Julius don't scare me in round 1.
Yeah.
In terms of I don't have enough size to compete with them, that's not an issue with those guys. And then you might get it with OKC where you have Hartenstein is big, but you're not going to get big size with Warriors intimidating you. You might have trouble rebounding against the Thunder eventually if you get to that point, but Lakers will worry about that when they get there. I think they're all right with the size.
Yeah, I fully agree. And then when you look at the first and only time that the Denver Nuggets played against the Lakers, Jokic had a lot of Nuggets fans saying, oh, he wasn't trying. That's how good the Lakers played defense against him in that game. And, it really goes to show, once again, as you said, the excellence of JJ Redick and what scheme he's done. Now you ask me, Gabe, how are they going to get it done? And how have they got it done? We all talk about in the NFL, and you guys are going to talk about it a lot on the Sunday recap once the NFL comes back around. The bracket coverage and how you defend a top receiver, right? That's how they defend these guys. It's not one-on-one. It's usually a guy playing low and a guy playing on the outside to shade over him, right? So it's really hard to get a pass to him in that window. But how have the Lakers kind of implemented that? Well, they have one guy playing high. They immediately front the center, whether that's LeBron, DFS, one of these undersized guys. And what they do is they have somebody on the backside and the other side of the paint. So if you do get the pass over him, it's like a double team immediately. The guy sprints in, and before Jokic or whoever gets the ball, he's double teamed. So now he has to make a decision. Obviously, Jokic is one of the best to make those decisions. And then you're relying on your help. You're relying on your scramble to, once Jokic makes the pass out, is that guy wide open for a 3? Or are we getting to that rotation? That's where the series is going to be won and lost. And you look at the size here against Rudy Gobert. he is nowhere near as talented on the offensive end as a guy like Jokic or any other of these guys. So if they just bracket him, he's going to turn over the ball a lot, and you're going to end up having Gobert not be a factor on the offensive end at all in any pick and roll situation, right? So the Lakers have done a fantastic job of being undersized. And even when they have Jackson Hayes on the floor, their offense, I mean, you have two supercomputers running your offense. It's going to be just electrifying stuff. And I think you're going to see the people who love watching just basketball and watching like X's and O's play out on a floor. You're going to watch this Lakers team and you're going to say, damn, this team, the way that they move is so calculated and so just like beautiful, pure basketball that you're going to fall in love with, even if they're flopping for free throws all the time, right?
Yep. And I think Hayes in the rotation has been better than advertised, too, at least in the second half of the year since the trades. And DFS plays way above his size defensively. He's able to match up a little bit bigger than he actually is. I think he's only 6'6", 6'7", but he's able to get bigger defensively when they need him to. So you mentioned the bracket coverage, and it's been something that we've seen on Twitter now recently. I think you were the first person to bring it to my attention on Twitter with a repost or a quote tweet or something. And then I've seen it all over since then. People just breaking down, especially that Jokic performance. But they're gonna be all right in the postseason. If the Lakers lose, I don't think it's going to be because of their size. I do worry a little bit about their rebounding at times.
Yeah.
But if the Lakers lose, I think they could rebound in a lot of different spots, though. That's where they have an advantage that could potentially make up for the lack of size rebounding. Is LeBron, Luka, these guys can rebound. Rui can rebound a little bit, but like everybody rebounds a little bit. DFS rebounds a little bit. Vanderbilt rebounds. Reeves could even grabs like 5 boards a game. So you're going to get it a little bit more from your 1 through 4 than other teams are at points as well.
And that's the weirdest thing, right? And it was a big point last year, even with Anthony Davis. Last year in the playoffs, a lot of people were talking about the Lakers' size and how much size they had, because you have guys, even Austin Reeves, what is he, 6'4", 6'5"? Like, he's not a short guy. And you have a big where they lack size in the front court, you have size in the back court that is bigger than a lot of other teams' size. So that it's a weird balancing game. I as you mentioned, I think it's overblown the size, but it's going to be interesting. You said 5 games in this first round series.
Yep.
I'll give it 5 or 6 as well.
Minnesota, another team, just a lost year for them, unfortunately. And the Cat trade, it really set them back. It really did. It just the maybe next year we look at it differently. Maybe they do something with the money off the books next season. But
it was the Rudy Gobert trade for me. That trade never made any sense. I understand you wanted to get a center to pair along with Cat because he isn't great defensively down low, and you wanted to make him more of a power forward, but that just was never the right guy. It was never supposed to be him. And, I think that's what made such a logjam, because then afterwards you had so much money in Cat, but you knew that duo wasn't working. So you had to get rid of Cat to free up some space on the floor and allow now Anthony Edwards some more space to roam. And now it's a weird team. I don't know. I think that's what ruined this team.
Yeah, that definitely was. Obviously, the Cat trade, the more immediate one. But Gobert, they needed that type of center.
Yeah.
You didn't need to go for the most high-profile defensive center and get absolutely fleeced by Danny Ainge in the trade. That was the first move Danny Ainge made when he got there. He couldn't wait to get rid of Gobert. And that the Timberwolves fell for it. It almost worked for him last year. They almost got to the finals last season. But I think what Cat did a great job of that doesn't get enough recognition, and he's done a good job of it in New York as well, is being able to, as a former number 1 pick, as a former top recruit in high school, a former top player in college, being able to say, okay, this is Anthony Edwards' team now. I've been here for 5, 6, 7 years, and we're drafting in. I don't know what year of Cat's career they drafted in, probably year 5, year 6. But he was able to say that, see how quickly Ant developed, and say, all right, this is going to be his squad. I'm going to take a back seat and be a veteran sidekick to him, because Cat's still the best scoring big, at least perimeter scoring big in the NBA. And he did the same thing with Brunson, and at times he's done it with Anunoby too, while Brunson's out. I think Cat does a very good job of that, and Minnesota's missed that, because I don't know if Randall, even if it's not something he's intentionally doing, trying to take over a team, I don't know if Randall has that in his ability play-wise to be the backseat guy.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And I don't know. Timberwolves got an interesting offseason coming up to them. They're going to have to make something happen, make something shake on that team. But yeah, let's go Lakers in 5 or 6.
All right, Lakers in 5 or 6. Then.
Lakers in 5.
Clippers, Nuggets. I have the Clippers. I think the Clippers are going to be a real spoiler team. And with the Mike Malone situation, I don't love the outlook for Denver in this postseason. Maybe it lights a spark. We saw a little bit of that at the end of the regular season in those last 3 games. But I think LA is going to surprise a lot of people here, the Clippers. And they're healthy. They have the group. And I think Kawhi has maybe one more run left in him and wins a round.
Yeah, this is why I hate doing a show with you, Kevin, because you and I agree on way too much shit.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think you have a situation. I'm going to liken this to the Bucks Pacers series on the other side. I think the Denver Nuggets are the Bucks in this situation, to where I don't see where they go right now from here. I don't see a lot of momentum on that franchise to go into this playoffs and really be a contender. I see a lot of momentum right now with the Clippers, because other than this year, the Clippers have been a failure in this sort of run, this core. And now you have finally Kawhi healthy. You have finally James Harden now starting to be some of his best basketball that he's been playing on a Clippers jersey. So you have momentum there. You have Chris Dunn, who a lot of people don't want to talk about, but Chris Dunn has been one of the better defenders in the perimeter in the entire NBA. And you have a guy, Ivica Zubac, who always is a consistent, almost double-double. This team seems like they have all the momentum right now. I think we're heading towards a battle of LA, if you want to, see somewhere where I'm going. But, it's so interesting. I love where the Clippers are, even as much as I really don't like the Clippers. They seem like the team that can make something happen here. And Jokic is going to have to go to berserk, really berserk, if they're going to want to win this series.
Dude, we're going to have the same exact bracket.
That's what I'm saying.
We're literally going to have the same exact bracket. And we didn't discuss any of this before. We have not had a single conversation about the NBA playoffs yet. And we are going to have the same exact bracket, because
not even a text message.
Because, we could just rip through the second round of the West now. I have the Clippers and Lakers winning their series. Yeah. Clippers in 6 over the Thunder. And that's going to be a great series if we get it. And Lakers over the Warriors. But just to continue on the Clippers here, you look through this squad, you're right. Zubac has been awesome. He's a guy that we've seen develop. And for whatever reason, he's been one of those role players that, while developing, has been in the spotlight. Obviously, he has the LA ties and everything, and that's why he's been on that front stage. But now he's really taken his game to a new level this year. I think is the first year that he's established himself. 16 points now, and leading the team with 12 rebounds. He's got, I think, over a block per game. But Chris Dunn is an X factor that nobody talks about. And while I'm doing my research, I've watched, for some reason, like an odd amount of Clippers games the last 6 weeks. And I'm watching this team, and I'm saying they play really well together. Dunn does a great job taking the perimeter defending responsibilities off of Harden's shoulders, so he doesn't have to really worry about it at all. You just put Harden on the lesser of the guards, and I think that plays really well for them against Denver and against OKC on the defensive end of the floor. But for Denver, who are they going to try to expose Harden with on the defensive end? They're not going to be able to. It's Jamal Murray's going to get done, and that's going to be it. And I don't think that, we're going to learn something about James Harden, I think, in this postseason run. I don't think that he's easy to guard still. I think he's still a really tough ISO player. I expect him to have a big postseason offensively.
Yeah, I think this is big for James Harden because he's finally healthy. I think health has been such a main factor in James Harden past couple seasons, where he hasn't been all too healthy going into these playoffs. And now that he is, I think he's finally got a good group of guys around him. And I think they are really motivated to make something happen. And, he is super difficult to guard. My only thing is when you're defending against the Nuggets, you're going to have a Jamal Murray and Jokic pick and roll. We all know it. It's going to happen. And how they play off of it is going to be super important defensively. If you do have Chris Dunn on Jamal Murray, how do you then defend? Because you're going to have Zubac on Jokic. How does that secondary action work, right? And then are you going to be able to get out to the shooters? That's going to be the biggest challenge in the series. And it's going to have back and forth. MPJ, who has really been disappointing recently on this Nuggets team, he's going to be the biggest guy that I think is going to be the X factor on the Nuggets side. He usually always is, but recently it just doesn't seem like MPJ is doing much of anything. And it's seeming like it's coming to an end of his Nuggets career here, unless the ownership loves him too much. which has been a story, by the way.
Yeah, I saw
Uh,
that last week.
but you know, it's crazy that I think that now you're going to have a team here that makes something happen, and I think that they're going to take it. But more on Chris Dunn. I mean, Kawhi Leonard talked to Pat Bev. Obviously, Pat Bev and Kawhi teammates with each other, and Pat Bev always known as one of the better defenders in the perimeter and the guards, right? But Kawhi Leonard told Pat Bev recently, it's like, hey, you would love to play with this guy, Chris Dunn. He reminds me just like you. And that's high praise coming from A, Kawhi Leonard, who's a spectacular defender, and B, to Pat Bev, who, yes, we all talk about the memes of Pat Bev, but Pat Bev was this fantastic defender, pesky defender as well. And if you're getting that praise from both Pat Bev and Kawhi Leonard, that means something to me.
Yep, absolutely, totally agree with you. Dunn's been a stud, and Pat Bev was one of those guys that, you know, he was just a championship type of player. I know that he has the memes, as you said, the Timberwolves memes, one of the all-time. That play-in, well, even the first play-in ever, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was. But even the Lakers camera meme as well when that LeBron got fouled. So he's got the meme.
He does. All right, so Clippers, we're both high on them. That means we get through this next round. But I'm curious, just why do you think, I kind of explained mine a little bit, but why do you think the Thunder are going to lose here in round 2?
Because of Chris Dunn.
Yeah, so we're just both rolling the Chris Dunn train here.
But I think it's important because even when you look at when you look at the Thunder, I do think they're a fantastic team and they're built very well. You have guys like J-Dub, you have guys like even Aaron Wiggins has been shooting very well on that team. You have a guy in Isaiah Joe, another sharpshooter off their bench who does a really good job. I just don't trust. I think Zubac is actually going to have a great series against them. I think Chet Holmgren, not that great defensively, and he plays a good amount of 5 when they go small ball, and Ihart is on the bench. Hartenstein against Zubac is going to be the matchup of the century in that series. And as much as I love Ihart and I want to give him the edge, I think overall in the way that they work in their teams, I love the way that the way that Zubac is used. I think that Zubac is a low-key great defender as well. So he's going to be doing a great job against Isaiah Hartenstein in that short roll situation. So I like that. I'm riding with the momentum of the Clippers. And once again, I think the Thunder, if they won the series, like a lot of these series, I wouldn't be surprised at all. But I don't think it goes any shorter than 6 games either way.
And this is showing you the parity, which we spoke about earlier, right? Is you can – the NBA 10 years ago or even maybe 5 years ago was much more straightforward with your picks. There were clear-cut teams, especially in the Warriors era. And when LeBron was in the East, it was clear-cut these two teams are going to get there. And it was a crazy time because I felt like in September of the season prior, I knew the finals matchup. I knew LeBron was winning the East, and I knew the Warriors were getting out for like 4 years straight. That was the story. And it wasn't that it just happened and they just won in April, May, and June. You knew the whole year. And now this season, it's been very different. You have the parity. You have these conversations that exist around whether or not 5, 6, 7 seeds can go on runs and whether or not 1 seeds are legit, which is fun basketball. It's better for the NBA, I think. But I like the Thunder a lot. I don't know. I got to see it in the playoffs first. I'm having issues with them. They're at that point, and I know they haven't been at it for too long. Yeah. But until they get past that second round, I'm not going to put them there. And SGA, I think, is, you know, one of the overly criticized players in the league for the foul baiting. But there's a truth to, you know, he's got to get past the second round now. And this Thunder team have to get past the second round and go on that first run because last year's loss I thought was disastrous. They had Ihart. That was clearly a need. They identified it. They did a great job getting them. Now, how do you use them? How do you use everybody? I would only worry about either LA, really, if you want to go down that road, but either LA team's ability to go 8-9 deep with the Thunder. How do the benches play a role in these games and the rotations? And will the Thunder bench outscore the Clippers bench significantly in a couple of big spots?
Yeah, and they definitely could. And when we talk about the health of Kawhi Leonard and the health of James Harden, if they're forced to play 36, 37 minutes a night now, well, are they going to stay healthy throughout the playoffs, right? That's going to be a big talking point because I think Kawhi Leonard, as healthy as he is right now, He's one ankle turn away, and I guess so is everybody. But Kawhi Leonard especially is a guy who's always injury prone. He's one knick-knack injury away from not being 100% and then returning to an old form and not being as effective, right? But if he stays as healthy as he is right now, man, this Clippers team is, as we've talked about and have demonstrated, it's going to be a very tough team. And you have now a defensive front with LA with a prime, not a prime, but like a rejuvenated Kawhi in the playoffs trying to get back to the finals. You have Chris Dunn, which we've talked way too much about in this episode already. Yeah. And then you have Zubac, who is another good defender down low. And it doesn't matter if you have James Harden not being a great defender. It doesn't matter if you have anybody else. That team is going to win a lot of games. And that team with that experience as well works perfectly in a playoff situation.
All right, you have conference finals, Battle of LA. We both have it. I have the Lakers advancing to the finals. So I have a LeBron finals with Lakers Cavs, which I didn't intend to have. It just worked out that way. And but LA, Battle of LA would be fun. It would be a fun little with the new arena, especially for the Clippers and the whole, ambiance around it. Obviously, it would probably be 6-7 Laker home games, whatever it ended up going. But I'd like to see these teams, good group of veterans, battle it out for a chance at a ring, for another ring. I just love the Lakers with Luka. Like I still, and I'm sure everyone's around this, I still can't wrap my head around the fact that Luka Doncic is not on the Mavericks and they actually traded him.
Yeah. It's insane, right? Because now you have a situation with the Lakers to where we've already talked about you have two supercomputers running the offense, but not only that, these two guys are two of the best point forwards that we've ever seen play basketball in the NBA. And now they're teammates. And now not only are they teammates, but they're working super well with each other on the offensive end. Nobody's really dominating the ball between the three of them, if you want to add Austin Reeves as well as that big three. It's been fantastic to see how fast they've turned it around. And I think it really has to do with, you have to give credit to not only, JJ Redick and the coaching staff for implementing new schemes and whatever, but you have to give a lot of credit to LeBron here for saying, hey, I understand from day one, I understand that Luka is going to need the ball. Luka is going to need to be himself. And since day one, he told Luka, don't fit in, fit the frick out, right? Be yourself. We'll work around you. And that right there is not something you see from other teams trading somebody in, especially to a high-profile guy like LeBron James. Usually it's, all right, Luka, join my team and learn how to play with me. No, it's not that. It's, all right, I'm LeBron, he's Luka. I'm going to learn how to play with him. And that's high praise coming from one of the greatest to ever do it.
And you just like to, once again, go down this path that it feels like we're beating a dead horse, but to conceptualize that the Mavericks made this trade and the Lakers gave up a return that kept them in contention is mind-boggling. Right. Obviously, AD, we both love him. We think AD is wildly overhated. But to only give up Anthony Davis, essentially, in this deal, I mean, that, like, Christie obviously goes as well, but how much does he sway your, the pendulum of winning for the Lakers this season? Not very much. And would they give a first-round pick also with it? Like, it's crazy that they're in this situation, because I just think back to when we started doing this show and we're talking about how do you get LeBron and AD a sidekick? How do you find that third guy? By the way, Austin Reeves, we haven't even talked about him much here. Austin Reeves is one of the best, if not the best, offensive third option in all of the NBA right now. And if he's making shots in the fourth quarter, this team is impossible to stop. But the fact that this is where we're standing right now, a day before the postseason begins, actually, forget the play-in this week, but the day before the NBA playoffs kick off and Luka and LeBron are playing together, it just wasn't even something you can conceptualize in October, November, December.
Not at all. And you have to give credit to Austin Reeves, too, for making this kind of bow it all together. The first thing I said, because a lot of people said, okay, when Luka was joining the team, it's going to affect LeBron. And I was like, no, it's going to affect Austin Reeves a lot, because now Austin Reeves, he was doing a really good job without D'Angelo Russell being that guy on the offense, to run the offense, have the ball a lot of the time. Now you have Luka Doncic, another guy who's taking the ball away from Austin Reeves. And I was like, no, now Austin Reeves, he's just going to be designated to the corner again. But once again, credit to the genius of whoever's running that offense, whoever and the teammates for being like, no, Austin Reeves deserves the ball and he deserves to make some decisions as well and work. And it's what makes this team so difficult, because not only do you have to deal with one pick and roll of duo, right? A lot of these teams, it's all right, Murray and Jokic, or SGA and Ihart, right? You have this one pick and roll set that you have to worry about. With the Lakers, it's all right. I have to deal with a pick and roll with Luka and LeBron. I have to deal with a pick and roll with LeBron and and Austin Reeves, and I have to deal with a pick and roll with Austin Reeves and now Luka Doncic. How do you defend it when they're all on the same court and they can just be like, oh, that pick and roll didn't work on that side. Let me just flip it to the other side and let's see what we can do now. It's very difficult to stop. It's a reason why I don't think anybody really has a way to defend this team. I mean, towards the end of the season, the Lakers destroyed a fully healthy OKC team. And I know people are like, oh, well, OKC's just coasting at the end of the year. Sure. But you're also trying to download that matchup that could also happen in the playoffs and understanding how can we defend this? And there was no defending the Lakers.
To beat the Lakers, you really have to hope that Rui, DFS, whoever else, like even Reeves to an extent, really struggle offensively, and that you can really shut them down, because they're at the point where you're going to put your best defender on Luka and LeBron, sure, but the double teams, the help, they shouldn't even come. You should just be making sure the other guys don't hurt you at all, because Luka and LeBron, in theory, can't put up 120 points together. How could you limit the rest of the guys? That's where we're at with the Lakers. And I don't think you can do it, man. I really don't. Unless they struggle on the boards, unless they have 2-3 guys put up total duds around them. Because even with that pick and roll play, they have off-ball movement like no other team in the league right now, too. So whatever nonsense they're doing off the ball, little intricacies that Redick has installed and his coaching staff have installed, and I'm sure that LeBron and Luka play a role in as well, that's just, it goes so long for their offense. This team, I'm excited to watch them. And then we have both entertaining finals here. I mean, you have Lakers-Celtics, which would be awesome. And I have Lakers-Cavs. So finally, we have a different matchup at this stage of it. But who do you think wins this? I think the Eastern Conference team is going to win the finals, whichever one of the two.
It's definitely a difficult choice. I would probably edge towards the Celtics, just once again, just the way that things have rolled. But my heartstrings need to go the Lakers route, just to get LeBron. I think this is probably the last real shot he has to win a championship. So I will give him that. It's difficult, right? Because I love how I set this up. Lakers Celtics, by the way. I didn't even mean for this, but here he is. But it's just, I think that you have a situation where the Celtics, the way that they play and their bigs are actually that's the only team that the way that they play big, you can't do a bracket coverage with Porzingis at half court shooting threes. Like there's no counter to that in the way that the Lakers like to play that defense. And I think that defense and the rebounding with guys like Derek White being a good defender, Jaylen Brown being a pretty decent defender, and also Jason Tatum being able to hold his own as well. That right there is a three that could stop Austin Reeves, Luka Doncic, and LeBron James trio. Not stop, but slow him down enough, right? And I think that team is just ran so well that it's tough to beat. It's tough to beat that team if you're the Lakers, even as great as they are offensively.
If you had to power rank the 5 best teams in this postseason, I know we didn't plan on talking about this, but I'm just curious, like, are the top 2 in the East, is it the 2 Eastern Conference teams or no? And then, like, how does your 5 round out? Because I think for me, right off the cuff, it would probably be Cleveland, Boston, OKC, Lakers, Clippers would be my 5. But obviously I could see those teams getting upset as I have OKC getting upset. But is your top 2 going to be Boston, Cleveland?
My top 2 still is Boston, OKC. Mm-hmm. And then Cleveland, Lakers, and I don't care who the 5th team is, but yeah,
Clippers, Knicks.
It could be. Whatever. No, it's definitely not the Knicks.
Definitely not the Knicks. Those are just the 2 teams on my screen.
it's probably the Clippers or the Nuggets, but a Western Conference team there. But yeah,
Houston. So no Houston consideration over the Nuggets or Clippers?
No, not this year. Not this year.
You
got to give him one more year. Got to give him a little bit more experience, and I got to see that. I got to see that. I need it to be solidified in my brain that they're real,
So you think this is LeBron's last chance at a ring? You don't think he can get one next year?
No, just because, and I know that this Lakers team is, we could talk about Luka Doncic and as that goes on, but I mean, they're going to need to adjust some things in the off season to really solidify things with, I think LeBron aging one more year is going to take a toll. Finally, he's just now getting under 25 points per game in a season. I could see that now decreasing a little bit more as we go into next year. It's not going to be a big drop, but it's going to be there. And I think this year they were still reliant on LeBron doing a lot of things. And I still don't think you can run a team that way when you add another year. And with that being said, the rest of the Western Conference is going to get that much better. We just talked about the Rockets needing one more year. We just talked about needing to see it and solidify it with OKC Thunder, right? So how do you now beat those teams if they really get things going? And I think the Clippers fall off a little bit, but the Western Conference is going to get that much better. And LeBron and the Lakers, I think if they don't have a good offseason, they get that much worse. And I think that really affects them.
Yeah. All right. Anything else, Gabe?
No, man. I'm happy where we are. These playoffs, I'm happy to finally get them started, get them going. It's going to be annoying talking about how the Knicks lose in the second round and all the comments that we're going to get on social media, on the playbook, and on BTO. And I don't think I'm ready for that, but I am ready for watching some good basketball. So let's have some fun here.
Yeah, I'm pumped for it. Make sure to follow at the Play BK, the playbook on Instagram for all of Gabe's work, and
almost at 300 on 3,000 on TikTok. So
all right, let's get there before the end of round one. We should be there before the end of round one. That's a goal that we're setting. We hope that you guys stick around with us for these NBA playoffs. We'll be popping up throughout them and plenty of content on the short form, both Instagram and TikTok. We're going to be diversifying the BTO Instagram and TikTok, so make sure you're following both on BTO Media. You can also check out the Hardline this week. Did a little NFL draft preview with a week to go. We'll have plenty of draft content now that we're 6 days out. You know that I have a ton. New draft guide coming out on Monday, the final top 50, and we'll have 2 mock drafts next week, Monday and Thursday morning. And that's going to be it. That's a wrap for me. It's a wrap for Gabe. We'll see you around. Enjoy the playoffs. Enjoy the weekend and the play-in tonight.